Right now, the rollout of Obamacare gets the congressional hearing treatment. So, what is the goal here? To fix this or to kill it before it even gets started? And will anything other than actual party politics come from this conversation? And then, where have you gone, Mr. October? Back when Reggie was earning the nickname of Mr. October, well, the World Series got a national audience, but tonight the ratings, they might get beat by football and a team, frankly, with no wins on its ledger. On cable here to talk, the man who wrote the book on Reggie. And finally, recovering from Sandy. Nearly a year later, some parts of the region are only now starting to have a return to normalcy, while the wait for others still goes on. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. We're going to talk that and also regional politics. But first, thank you for joining us this Thursday evening, October 24th. And we begin here with Obamacare, and it was on the Hill today. The troubled rollout of the program has gotten a whole lot of attention, but the question is, will tighter congressional oversight actually provide some wellness for health reform or just act, frankly, as a death panel? More now from senior political correspondent Andrew Whitman.
Well, Rich, today was focused specifically on the rollout of Healthcare.Org and the problems that online consumers are reporting. But where exactly should the blame lie? With the contractors who built the systems or the governmental agencies that put them all together?
Lawmakers from both parties have been chomping at the bit to lay into someone about the problems at Healthcare.gov, and today they got their chance.
Amazon and eBay don't crash the week before Christmas, and Pro Flowers doesn't crash on Valentine's Day.
After footing the bill, the American people deserve something that works or start over.
But their frustrations weren't directed at senior administration officials, rather at the contractors who helped build Healthcare.gov. And they say it's not their fault there have been so many problems. CGI is the lead contractor, and its senior vice president said the web program passed 8 required technical reviews before going live on October 1st.
From a CGI perspective, our portion of the application worked as designed.
Another contractor said when problems came up before the launch, they were passed along to the administration.
All of the risks that we saw and all of the concerns that we had regarding testing were all shared.
And as for delaying the launch, CGI says it didn't recommend that to the administration.
It was not our position to do so.
But after the launch, the administration quickly found out.
The problems with the site were greater than we expected and anticipated, significantly.
Still no answers on when the problems will be fixed.
There's improvements day over day. I cannot give you an exact date as to when it will be completely to satisfaction.
Suffice it to say, we did not get a lot of solid answers at today's hearings, but there were some good political moments. The themes of the day captured by 2 committee members. First up, Republican Chairman Fred Upton.
Over the past several months leading up to the October 1st launch, top administration officials and lead contractors appeared before this committee, looked us in the eye, and assured us repeatedly that everything was on track, except that it wasn't, as we now know too well. So why did they assure us that the website would work? Did they not know, or did they not disclose? That's what we're looking to find out with the contractors today and with Secretary Sebelius next week.
But the spotlight moment belonged to a Garden State lawmaker, New Jersey Congressman Frank Pallone, with a Peter Finch moment.
I started out in my opening statement saying there was no legitimacy to this hearing, and the last line of questioning certainly confirms that. HIPAA only applies when there's health information being provided. That's not in play here today. No health information is required in the application process. And why is that? Because pre-existing conditions don't matter. So once again, here we have my Republican colleagues trying to scare everybody.
Will the gentleman yield?
No, I will not yield to this monkey court or whatever this thing
This is not a monkey court.
Do whatever you want. I'm not yielding. I am trying to tell you that the problem here,
protecting American citizens,
there are no pre-existing conditions.
A legitimate concern of this committee.
The pre-existing conditions don't matter. HIPAA doesn't apply. There's no health information in the process. You're asked about your address, your date of birth. You're not asked health information. So why are we going down this path? Because you are trying to scare people so they don't apply, and so therefore the legislation gets delayed, or the Affordable Care Act gets defunded, or it's repealed. That's all it is, hoping people won't apply.
But again, the real highlight of these hearings from a theatrical moment comes next week when HHS Secretary Kathleen Sebelius is scheduled to testify. Rich?
And for more, we're very pleased to bring in Michael Shearer. He is the White House correspondent for Time Magazine, as you might expect. He's been pretty busy writing a lot about the healthcare rollout, including pieces like No More Apologies, why Obama has to get mad about his broken Obamacare websites, and also traffic didn't crash the Obamacare site alone, bad coding did too, and he joins us for our nation's capital. You know, Michael, it's interesting in your reporting you said that in the beginning, the president called them glitches, and 3 weeks later, there were unacceptable technical problems. From what you've learned and what we heard today in testimony, should this have come out of the blue to the president and the administration, or do you think they had an inkling, they had a problem here, they just wanted to get this thing going?
Well, the administration as a whole certainly knew there were problems. There were warnings as far back as the summer and even late last year about the speed at which they were building this. The White House, the senior officials of the White House claim, and actually I've talked to enough people now that I believe them, they claim they were demonstrated the website before it went live and were told that it would work. So at some point along the chain here, the real problems with the website were not made clear to the West Wing. And so even though the president did expect glitches and some problems, they had no idea that they would be as massive as they are now. I mean, we're 3 weeks in now, and we're still talking about a website that is probably rejecting most of the people who go to it, which is a pretty catastrophic failure. And then even of those people who are able to get through on it, the data that it's spinning out on the back end that gets delivered to insurers is often garbled, or there's even more severe problems with it. So, you know, the real scope of this is far more severe than anyone at the West Wing thought.
You know, I've heard two schools of thought here. Some say you got to blow this thing up. The programming's so flawed, the coding as well. Tweaks won't do it. Others say no, out of both necessity and with the right people being brought in. I love these terms, alpha teams that they're bringing in from Silicon Valley here. But all that said, that they can fix it. The core is sustainable. What are you hearing? Can they really tweak this thing and get it to work? And I'm hearing November 1 is a key date.
Yeah, November 1's a key date, but it's not a fixed date. I mean, basically what they have to do is get this working in time so enough people can actually sign up for insurance before the end of the year. And then the other big date is March of next year when the penalties kick in. If enough people don't sign up, and the ballpark number they're looking at is about 7 million through next year, then the risk pool in these insurance exchanges will be really distorted. Only the sickest people will have found a way to sign up, and therefore the cost of insurance for everyone will go up because the risk won't be adequately shared among enough people. And so that's the deadline they're facing. Now, whether they have to blow it up and start over or fix what they have, I don't know the answer to that. In a large part, that's because I don't know the full extent of the technical problems. And one of the reasons for that is that the White House, the administration, has still been incredibly untransparent when it comes to describing what is actually wrong with this.
A couple math questions, and we talk some politics on this. Give me an idea, what's the number of uninsured people they need to sign up for this, and by when?
Right. So it's 7 million, and it's basically by spring of next year, although that could be fudged. I mean, if they're on their way and they've got most of that, they'll be fine. But 7 million is the number they're gunning for. Now, if they get 3-4 million, does the whole program collapse? I don't know, but it's very likely that the premiums for people will go up. The thing worth saying here, though, is that there is evidence, both in polling and in a lot of publicity has come from this, and an interest from people going to the website, that a lot of people actually don't have insurance now and do want insurance. Remember, what we're talking about here is the population of people who don't get insurance through their employer. And they're being offered for the first time, in many cases, affordable plans where they can cover themselves and their families. So it's not clear yet whether the will won't win out. The other thing the White House points to is the Massachusetts example. That's the one other place we've seen this sort of a program go into effect. And what we saw there was that the people of Massachusetts didn't sign up for health care there until right before they were going to be penalized. Basically, people waited until the last minute, which is, you know, rational behavior, I think, in a lot of ways. And if that's the case, and if you have a functioning website, then the glitches we're seeing now, and even worse than glitches, may not matter much if early next year people are flooding into this system and it's working and it's signing them up.
we've already heard a few Democrats on the Hill in the Senate, Pryor and also Shaheen, I believe, and I know Manchin's given hints. They may want to push back the enrollment deadline. I know the White House has said no way. Internally, do you think there are some who said this might be something we're going to have to concede on, but we're going to have to wait a little while before we play that card? What's the feeling about that March might not be realistic if they can't get their act together?
Well, if they can't get a way for people to sign up for health care by next March, then I don't think you're going to have the penalties come into place. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. You couldn't penalize people for something they can't avoid. And so I don't think that's going to happen. But I think we're a long way from getting to the point where we know that's going to happen. People have talked about the beginning of November as a real key date for the insurers to know this is working. I think you could probably go several weeks into November. At some point, if things aren't fixed, the insurers will start screaming about it, and that will create pressure. And it will be in the administration's interest to have a delay.
You also, one of your titles is the president's got to get mad about this. To that end, Sebelius's name has been the one that's come up the most here. Should heads roll? Do you think heads will roll over this?
Well, I don't know if heads will roll. Probably the answer is should heads roll? Yes. Probably the answer is yes. I don't know if Sebelius is the person. Obviously, she runs the agency, but she wasn't day-to-day managing this. You could say she's ultimately accountable and make that case. I think the White House right now has concluded two things. One, that they need the people who failed here right now to help fix it. So there's not much upside in firing people willy-nilly right now. And secondly, they don't want to make the public relations problem any worse than it already is.
Michael, great job. I really appreciate a few minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Richard.
All right, so we know where we are right now, but the question is, where do we go from here? And trust me, there's a lot of back and forth here, a lot of finger pointing. We're going to learn about consequences and reality sooner than later. So when we come back after break, we're going to bring our panel in here, talk about Obamacare, today's hearings, and whether or not the president deserves some of the blame for where we are today as well. Stay with us, everybody. Back after this.